Currently, we have all kinds of combinations. Whenever a bank or an institution announces a recruitment process, the number of applications are huge. As you are aware, the banking has undergone a lot of change. More focus on technology is there because the substantial relationship with the banks with the customers are purely on technology. But having said this, I think going forward, when we have to handle credit, when you have to handle more areas where there's a lot of interaction with the customers on analytics, etc., I think there's more reason for us to go in for other areas of specialists, including say chartered accountants, including say even IT professionals for business analytics, for marketing of products. New products are coming up, complicated products are coming up. I think specialized people are going to come. Banking is a very interesting field because after all, as you say, it's dealing with money, but at the same time, routine banking is something which is being, I won't say avoided, but substantially moved away from normal branch banking to alternate means like ATMs through internet banking. So the kind of talent we need is a mix of people with knowledge on specific products like advances, etc., and also people on technology. Yeah, you're right. Basically, what happens is we have gone through a particular process where we recruit people at the junior level. We do have some lateral recruitment, but not in such a large way. And a substantial portion of the people grow within the organization has held the banks in good stead in the past. But going forward, I think more and more specialists will be taken, and lateral recruitment will be taken, campus recruitment will be taken. I think the PSU banks also would possibly take this. Right now, there are certain legal constraints why people are unable to take campus recruitment unless it is on a contract basis, which is what we are contemplating. But though many of them may be actually living within 5-6 years, there is a comfort when someone says, I'm giving you a permanent employment. And therefore, I think the PSU banks have to change and the legal scenario has to change to find ways and means of trying to get some permanent employment, which could ensure that the good quality people also join to ensure that the banks meet the hour of the current change which is there in the system. There are areas like legal. We need people who understand legal system, because banking legal, the plethora of cases which are going into NCLT, plethora of cases which are going to the various courts, I think, and including a specialist on taxation, specialists on HR areas. HR areas, only a few banks have got specialists. I think that's also an area where you can have this. Of course, number of people who can understand securitization, who can understand credit appraisal, etc. In the past, it was a very simple process. You had standard procedures for financing banks, but with the kind of complicated products and the large value of projects, I think more and more specialists in the case of advance also would be required. Documentations are being more complicated, systems are being more complicated, IT professionals are needed because the banker, normal banker may not be in a position to understand the ways IT works. I think that is also an area where we need a lot of professionals. Overall, I think many areas where professionals can be there, a good number of areas where you can have even generalists. In many banks, what happens is they have taken specialists in legal, both public sector and private sector. In the case of private sector, I think it is very clear that they will remain in the same field. Whereas in the case of public sector, there is a feeling that an opportunity should be given for a legal banker, a person who has joined from the legal profession and come into the legal area to move into what is called the general banking. And then you actually lose his talents and his experience in the legal in the long run. Whereas in some banks, it becomes a separate vertical. The legal vertical is a specialist who understands banking but who does only legal cases. Similarly, in the case of advances, what happens is A person joins a bank and then he moves into what do you call retail banking, he does SME banking, he does agriculture banking, he does international banking, he does even large advances, but that mix may be good for a overall bank, but may not be good in the interest of the bank for particular area, because specialization, I think, is a must in the long run. If it asked me a question about 10 years ago, I think it is a big issue, because most of the reskilling was to be done in the area of IT, because we had just moved into IT in the latter half of the last century, the last decade of the last century, and in the early decade of first decade of this century. But I think on that particular front, the reskilling is not a must. Today, as we find that a lot of information is available in the public domain, people know more about banking. In fact, when I joined the bank about 30 years ago, I hardly knew much about banking, but today a good amount of information is available in the space about banking, and a good number of people are knowing how banks work and what areas. In fact, they actually come with a preconceived notion as to which areas they would be good at. Some people are very good in marketing, some people are good in cross-selling, some people are good in insurance business. I think going forward, the reskilling area would also depend on the areas where people would like to specialize in, and where their heart will go and do what they feel is the right for them. See, reskilling, I won't say reskilling, I think a lot to do with the change in the attitude. I think the fact that we are a customer based and service organization is to be kept in mind by everyone, and if that is there, I think reskilling is to be done at different areas. One area which, as I told, is in the advances area. People need to understand how new ways of financing is to be done, how new ways of monitoring of this financing is to be done. In the case of legal and all, we normally are totally dependent on outsiders, and therefore we don't have much of a large workforce in those areas, primarily in the area of advances and in the areas of compliance. So very often one tends to do what you think is right, but may not necessarily be legally correct, may not be regulatory correct. I think people have to be skilled to understand that regulatory compliance is of utmost importance.